Hello, hi everybody. Welcome to this discussion around apprenticeships. We're here today in support of National Apprenticeship Week, and we want to talk to you or share some of our knowledge and experience around apprenticeships and the Apprenticeship Levy. We're really passionate about promoting apprenticeships within the charity and not-for-profit sector. And so we're going to have a chat about that, sort of bust some myths, share some information which might mean that you engage an apprentice within your organisation or support somebody with their development via the levy. So I'm Peter Beebe. I'm the Chief Exec of Prospectus, and we're recruiters to the charity and not-for-profit sector. And I have a wonderful panel with me today. So I'd just like to hand over for some introductions. So I'm just going to start on the left of my screen. Tommy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, hi Peter, hi all. Tommy McDade, I'm the Head of Employment Training and Skills at Barnardo's. Employment Training and Skills in Barnardo's is a group of services that help particularly disadvantaged young people into the world of work, not onto apprenticeships. So we have a dual role. We are a apprenticeship levy payer as an organisation ourselves, but we're also an approved apprenticeship provider.
Awesome, thank you, Tommy. And LJ, over to you.
Thanks, Peter. I'm Laura Jane Rawlings, but prefer LJ. I'm Chief Exec of Youth Employment UK, which is a leading expert on the issues of youth unemployment. Through lots of the work that we do, we are also a membership organisation for employers who want to be good places to work for young people. So the knowledge around the issue of apprenticeships is really important to us. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. And finally, Louise.
Hello everybody, Louise Timperley. I'm Apprenticeship Manager at the Co-op. You will have heard of Co-op because we have a number of stores around the country. We're also a funeral services provider and legal services and insurance. We have about 750 apprentices within our organisation at any one time. And with 57,000 colleagues, we are a levy payer. We pay a lot of levy every year. And as well as looking after our own apprenticeships, we do some work in our communities and try and share the levy out with like-minded employers, and hopefully we can use this opportunity to help you in your sector to support more apprentices through Co-op Levy Share.
Brilliant, thank you everyone. So we've all had different experiences in respect of apprenticeships and different experiences with regards to the levy. And Prospectus is a business, we have to pay into the levy, and we've engaged a number of apprentices over a number of years, and really passionate about this as being a really good way of bringing talent into your organisation, but also developing talent in your organisation. But you know, some people do pay into the levy, some don't. Can you just sort of share a little bit more about the levy? Maybe Louise, yeah, what's your experience with the levy? Tell us a bit more about it. Can I access it? Can everybody access it?
Yeah, so it's a good question. The Apprenticeship Levy was brought in by government in 2017. I can't believe it's that long ago, actually. And the idea was a policy shift to ensure that employers sort of bought into the levy, and a bit of a stick, if you like. You know, you pay this tax and you can get it back if you employ apprentices and train apprentices in your own organisation. And anybody who's got a pay bill of over £3 million a year pays into the levy. So it's quite a large business that actually starts to pay into the levy itself. And it's 0.5% of that pay bill that goes in. So an organisation the size of Co-op, for example, we pay £5 million a year into that levy. And we can take money out when we train our own apprentices, and that fund is used to support the training and assessment costs only of apprentices. So every time we train an apprentice at Co-op, the money comes back out of HMRC and is used to pay the training providers for their services. So many of the people listening to this webinar will be levy payers. Some may only pay a few £1,000s each year, some may only pay a few £100s each year. The idea is, though, that the government collects enough money to try and support apprentices across every size of organisation. And so any unspent levy can be used by government to help businesses who don't pay the levy, and also through different sharing mechanisms that we can come on to later.
Okay, that's really, really interesting. And Tommy, I think your organisation does pay into the levy, is that right?
Yes, we're a levy payer too. I don't think we pay as much in as the Co-op do, but yeah. And since 2017, that's been our challenge, I guess, as an organisation, as to how we utilise the levy pot in a way that helps to not only develop existing colleagues, existing staff within our business and our charity, but also looking at supporting young people and coming into the organisation through apprenticeships as well. So it has been a challenge. I don't think anyone would pretend it's been easy, but there's remains huge opportunities for us to develop this further. And as Louisa said as well, part of that is about maybe supporting other charity organisations, smaller organisations, and maybe trying to access that as well.
Okay, so yeah, no, that's really, really interesting. So therefore, you're accessing the levy and using that for the talent within your organisation. But is that the same for you, LJ?
No, it's not. We're a team of 14 people at Youth Employment UK. We might make 20 this year. But actually at 14 people, it means our payroll bill does not exceed the levy requirement. So we don't pay into the levy. But actually out of our 14 staff, this last year, 5 of them have been apprentices. So we've had 4 under 25s on apprenticeship programs with us and 1 older worker who was upskilling with an apprenticeship. So we utilise apprenticeships because we really believe in the importance of on-the-job training and supporting people's development. But we have to make a contribution as a small organisation because we don't get to pull the costs from the levy pot, if you like. So actually we'd have to pay 5% of our training costs for the apprentices that we hire unless we tap into the levy share, which Louise mentioned, and I know we'll explore in a little bit more detail.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thanks for that. So Louise, I was just thinking about why should you have an apprenticeship? Why should you use this as a route for either recruitment or retention? Do you want to just share some of your experiences of why somebody should be employing an apprentice?
Yeah, there are lots of different ways to develop talent within our organisation, but what I've loved about apprenticeships in the 20 odd years that I've been working with them is the fact that you're not just learning stuff, you're applying stuff. So apprenticeships are all made up of skills, knowledge and behaviours. So anything that you find out about in a classroom or on the job, you're applying it to your day-to-day work. If you think about just doing a qualification, that's knowledge. So you're learning things, you're probably taking a test or an exam, but with a qualification, you're not always applying that knowledge. Apprenticeship means that you earn whilst you learn on the job and develop those skills so that you can grow in your role and also hopefully move through your career to the next level of apprenticeships. So as an example, we've got people in our stores who started off as customer team members. So they're the people that you will see in our stores that are serving you on the tills or are replenishing the stock. And there's a level 2 retailer program that some of those apprentices started on. They can then move through to be a retail team leader or a retail manager. And each of those programs are a year to 18 months long. And those individuals are working in our stores and developing their talent and skills throughout that period. We've got some good examples of people who've made it to store manager level and beyond. And 2 of those individuals are now working through a level 6 chartered manager degree apprenticeship program. So there's lots of stories that lots of organisations have got about how apprenticeships have helped to develop people's careers as they're doing their day-to-day jobs.
That's so interesting to hear, and particularly about the different levels that a person can actually go through in terms of their learning, training and development. But Tommy and LJ, I mean, perhaps it would be interesting to hear your experiences about the type of roles within your organisations that you've filled via this route.
Yeah, we're currently supporting just under 100 employees through this route as a talent development opportunity. So our number of employees are some maybe working in our shops at entry level, so low level customer service qualifications. But again, a lot of employees in our finance department, for example, doing a lot of higher level, degree level qualifications around finance, around accountancy. Similarly, in our digital teams, data analyst posts. So there's a wide range of opportunities there that we've been able to use the levy pot to enable our colleagues to develop and grow within Barnardo's. And that's a key aspect of what we're aiming to do as a charity, is to almost grow our own. And, you know, that links to, from our perspective, links more widely and broadly to the issues in the labour market at the moment anyway, where things are pretty tight, and make sure you have a quite diverse range of recruitment pathways and opportunities for people to come into the organisation, but at the same time investing in the talent that you've got to retain them and allow them to grow is a really important aspect for us.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I think part of the question that I might just go back to was, why should the charity sector be doing some of this work? And actually, I think what apprenticeships do, based on what we've heard from Louise and Tommy, really tackle some of the big social issues that many charities are actually trying to serve externally. So my experience has been, you know, many of us who are working in my case, youth unemployment, but charities working in social mobility or with disadvantaged communities, can really benefit from bringing people with lived experience into their organisation and developing them through apprenticeships. I think apprenticeships can really impact social mobility positively. And I think about some of our apprentices. We took on 2 young people through Kickstart, which was the government funded scheme that was available through COVID to organisations. And we took on 2 young people who have mental health and anxiety challenges, quite profound mental health and anxiety challenges. And we were able to bring them in through Kickstart. They were so successful with us through Kickstart that we then put them onto apprenticeship programs, and they both work within our marketing team, and they've completed their apprenticeship program successfully. And in fact, one of those apprentices is going to move on to do a degree apprenticeship next. So we are walking our talk as a charity in the third sector by offering good opportunities for the demographics that we serve. And I'd really like to see more charities being able to do that and provide good opportunities for the communities that they serve and the issues they're trying to tackle. There's much more room to go here.
That's so interesting to hear. I completely agree. I find it quite interesting, again, from my own experience. Remember my brothers, and back in the day where there was apprenticeship routes, but they seemed to be very specific. I remember my brother exploring car mechanic, those kind of roles. But actually, the scope is so much wider than that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. There's that perception that, are you doing an apprenticeship? Oh, how long is it? Is it 3 years? Is it 4 years or whatever? And I think that's something that there's still that kind of perception there. But the reality is that the apprenticeship opportunities vary significantly in length and in depth, depending on what level you're doing. So for a lot of charities, they could take advantage of this opportunity through the levy to help develop in a short period of time someone's role and someone's capabilities. And it's not that sort of, well, I'm signing up to do an apprenticeship and I need to keep them here for 3 years and it's going to take this. And also, oh, they're going to college for a few days a week. That's old-fashioned view of what apprenticeships are, I would say.
Yeah. And I think just to broaden that point, that there are about, I think, around 750 apprenticeship standards now. So from absolutely the technical, traditional apprenticeships in trade, in building and construction, but also, you know, I think for charities there are finance, HR, marketing, outreach, sustainability pathways for people. So youth work apprenticeships was a new standard that got released last year. So there are absolutely apprenticeship standards for every occupation that exists, but particularly every occupation we might have in the charity sector. You can now become a doctor through an apprenticeship, which was a huge movement for the NHS this year.
No, that's just so amazing. Louise, did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point to draw out the number of apprenticeships that are available. As part of the work we're doing for National Apprenticeship Week, we're putting together an A to Z of apprenticeships, which is only obviously 26 different apprenticeship standards, but it will serve to draw the point out about what's available. In Co-op, we've been recruiting solicitors onto apprenticeship programs for the last 3 years, and that's recruiting 18-year-olds. And we've looked at it through a social mobility lens as well. So rather than going to the more traditional sources to bring 18-year-olds in, we've broadened that net and we've given some support to individuals who traditionally might have lacked in confidence to apply for roles like that. And we've had some success there, which I'm really pleased to be able to report on. But I think it's important that people make themselves aware of the different programmes. And I know that for anybody who's not familiar with apprenticeships, it is a bit of a minefield. So I think at the end of this webinar, I think we will be able to share some links of places to go to for individuals to find out a bit more about what's available and where to go to get that help to guide people through the process as well.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I think, you know, because I mean, it's amazing that there is over 700 standards. And I was having a sort of quick flip through them myself. And actually, you know, again, relevant to the sector, fundraising, there's a fundraising qualification policy as well. And I mean, I find it quite interesting, actually, because I think, again, a myth or maybe a barrier might be the fact that, so my understanding is the levy does not, of course, cover wages or any of the salary of those posts. It's for the training and development. But, you know, the posts or areas that we've talked about, these organizations are going to need to recruit into those posts. So therefore, you're going to, you know, usually they're there. Of course, this funding doesn't support the wages or salaries, but you can fund the training and development from this levy. That's right, isn't it?
It is, and I suppose you're saving on the commercial cost there. So although you are having to pay out of the levy or share the levy, you're not having to pay out of your commercial funding budget for training, which makes a massive difference to lots of organisations.
Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely, and particularly across the sector where we all know, you know, financially, practically every charity's struggling to make ends meet. So if you've got an L&D budget and you're paying into that, but you're not utilising the opportunities to fund even part of that through the levy, then you're making it a bit harder for yourself to sustain your L&D commitments. So it's a great opportunity to partly fund what you're committed to do on a year-by-year basis as a charity.
Okay.
And I was going to say, sorry, Peter, I was just going to add that we have an approach in our business of apprenticeship first. So if somebody is seeking support and development, then we look across all the apprenticeship standards first to ensure that there's something there that can be utilised. And if there isn't, because although there are 700 standards, there are some occupational areas that aren't covered. If we can't use apprenticeships, then we'll consider doing a commercial piece of training.
Okay, brilliant. And actually, I think, again, another concern, perhaps, or barrier could be, I think there's maybe a bit of a myth about the amount of time that anybody on an apprentice might need to give up in order to attend training or the development. But maybe perhaps you could just share some experiences around that and how that works.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think it's really interesting. The training development conversation's been hot on my mind for the last few months. Because I think about succession planning. I think about who's the next workforce at Youth Employment UK, and will we have the talent coming through with the lived experience to really drive the organisation forward, which is my ambition as a leader. And, you know, I came from a commercial sector where 20 years ago, businesses invested in training. It was part and parcel. I think we've got into a world, and it's difficult in the charity sector, where we're not putting the right investment into our people and people development. And I think we're really missing a trick. We expect people to turn up on day one and be work ready, you know, oven baked. And actually, it's not how it's always been, but we've got into this expectation that we shouldn't have to do too much as an employer for our employees. And, you know, we model ourselves on being a great place to work at Youth Employment UK. People want development. So I think if you have to, you know, I think you have to get on board with apprenticeships and other training and development and make a commitment to your staff's well-being and their development through giving them time off as appropriate for whatever the training programme is. And in the case of apprenticeships, it's 20% off the job training. So typically, and my experience has been, our apprentices have had 1 day a week where they've gone off and done their training with their training provider. But I know as we look at the degree apprenticeship for the member of staff I've spoken about, they'll go for block placements at university. So it's not always one thing. There is still some flexibility in how that training is being delivered. But I think that's an opportunity rather than a challenge. It's just the way you look at it.
Yeah, here. And I agree about the actual flexibility that you do have around it, but we should be prioritising, you know, the development and training of our staff. Anybody else wanted to add anything on that?
Yeah, I think sorry, you go, Tommy.
Sorry, Louise. Yeah, I think it's always when we talk to employers, particularly small employers, as an apprenticeship provider, it's always a discussion point. How do we make sure we fulfil that requirement? And as LJ says, there's different ways of being able to do that. And as an apprenticeship provider, we see it as our role to try and help the employer to understand how they can fulfil that and how they can do it in a flexible way, in a way that meets both their needs and the employees' needs. So, I would say, for any potential employer thinking about doing this, don't let it become an issue. It isn't. There is, approaches and flexibilities there to make it happen and make sure that it works for both the employer and the employee.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that, Tommy. It's not a hard and fast rule that the 20% off the job training means you are off the job. So there's so many opportunities for learning. Think about what we're doing at this moment in time. We're all learning how to do a recorded webinar. This is an actual, off the job training live. So if we were doing our apprenticeship, we could put this in our portfolio of evidence to say that we've all gone through a learning experience today. It's those sorts of opportunities for off-the-job training that, as Tommy says, we need to be very flexible about and aware of.
It's a really good example, so thanks for that, Louise. And I actually think that, again, the opportunity of bringing in an apprentice into your organisation, or supporting somebody through their apprentice, actually has the benefits for those that are supporting around them. I've always found that quite valuable, in the fact that it does give you the opportunity to share what share your knowledge, and it could even create a line management opportunity. So I think it sort of pushes out into your organisation in terms of that model, and again, you're playing a part in supporting future talent. And the other thing I wanted to pick up on, I thought it was quite interesting when you were thinking about future jobs as well, is that you could lean into some of the standards that we probably now need to be training people in. And I was thinking about the sustainability piece, etc. That could be an area that organisations might want to explore and use the Apprenticeship Levy to do that. Great.
Yeah, I think they're relatively new standards, and it's difficult to know what will happen in the next few years with standards like that. I'm not sure what the take-up has been. With Co-op Levy Share, we've got some evidence of programmes that we've been able to support in the last 2.5 years. And a lot of the programmes have been of relevance to the third sector. And particularly when we're looking at things like career progression. So I know we've talked about youth and young people coming into apprenticeship programmes. We've got some good examples in the health and social care sector of charities where they've been able to afford to pay for an apprenticeship to bring somebody into an entry-level role and do a level 2 programme. But when those individuals have been ready to move on to the next level, unfortunately, the funds haven't been there to pay for that apprenticeship training. So they've come to us and said, could we support and help these individuals to progress to a level 3? And it allows them, from a social mobility perspective, to grow in their careers, and in many cases just to move up to a few more pounds per hour in terms of their wage makes a massive difference to their ability to live their lives and really enjoy their jobs and feel like they're giving something back as well in the careers that they've chosen to do. So that's been great for us to see the stories of support. And I think it's important that people are aware of the fact that it can be career progression as well as just new intakes into any programmes.
Okay. And does anybody have any experience of anybody that they've had that's like existing within their organisation that then suddenly you've got a role and somebody has then become an apprentice? Because I think there's some challenges about, we think there's an opportunity here and we can support your own development, and you're going to become an apprentice. And it might be good to just talk a little bit about what that actually means.
Yeah, one colleague particular springs to mind where we've employed in our data team, in our employment training skills service. We employed, she was a young person back then, a few years ago, but she came in initially in an administrator role within the data team, but we always had in our mind that at some point when it's relevant, she would go through the apprenticeship. So it wasn't a case, and again, this is for example of the flexibility in the apprenticeship system. You didn't have to go straight in first day of the job onto the apprenticeship. we allowed her to settle into the job, develop to an extent. Then we thought, right, it's right for her to do the apprenticeship. She successfully completed the business admin level 1. Subsequently moved on level 2, and she's now our team manager within our data team. So that's that kind of pathway over a number of years that our colleague has taken, where we've been able to give that support at the right time, determine when it's together with them, when it's right to start the apprenticeship, and then, you know, what's the next level, where do you go next? Are committed to doing that? Yeah, well, we can support you to do that when it's right. So there's a career path there now where they've grown in the role and they've moved up to a higher level as well within the organisation.
Yeah, and in my case, we have a brilliant office manager who came in to do quite a fixed role in office management and supporting diary management for me. And her role broadened out to take on some HR responsibility. So we've put her through an apprenticeship. So sort of a year later, as the roles expanded, used an apprenticeship to support her training development to take on a HR coordination activity as well. So as we've been a growing organisation and growing our need, we've been able to use apprenticeships to support the team to kind of move up with us and scale up with us in their skills. So that, you know, it's been a really useful example of, you know, training an existing member of staff in a role that we were evolving to.
Yeah, no, and like we've had experience of somebody that's appointed to a post, and then they wanted to actually expand and actually take on a financial qualification, and we were able to then actually pivot, change their status. They were still in the same role doing the job that they needed to do, but suddenly had the benefit of this training and support that was leading to a qualification, which is fantastic.
Mm.
So many interesting nuggets here, and hopefully we've been able to get across the value and the fact that you can actually access the levy. You know, I think that the point being made around prioritising training and development should be for all organisations, and the Apprenticeship Levy and this route enables that. It supports attraction, retention, it supports social mobility and diversity. Where should charities go from here? Any suggestions of where we can perhaps just then help those organisations with next steps? Any final thoughts?
I think the starting point for me would be the apprenticeships.gov.uk website, just to get some background and context for how it all works. There's an awful lot of information on there, lots of detail. If you click on every link that's on there, you'll be there all day. But it's a good starting point just to answer some of your own individual questions. If anybody is interested in working with us through Co-op Levy Share, if they haven't got any levy of their own, then, as I said before, we can get some links out, and we've got a person in the middle of that service that is a handholder, if you like, and will take people through the process of getting started. And there's no silly questions environment, so that's worth knowing if anybody wants to take advantage of that.
From my perspective, organisations who really want to understand how they can be good employers for young people, and particularly with a generation of young people that are facing a lot of uncertainty and anxiety around moving to work, then becoming members of Youth Employment UK will give them excellent insight as to how they can support and provide wraparound care for their young staff as they're developing them. So I of course recommend membership to Youth Employment UK, and I will be tapping into the Co-op Levy Share to support our apprentice who wants to now move on to a degree apprenticeship, because the point being that cost for us would be quite high as an organisation who doesn't pay the levy. So I'm going to lean into the co-op and make sure that we can continue our colleagues' development through the co-op's help. So thanks, Louise.
Yeah, brilliant. And Tommy, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, apprenticeship.gov.uk, absolutely, for the information. Barnardo's is also committed to the Co-op Levy Share as well. So we see the importance of enabling small employers to be able to access this. I'll have a plug for our website as well. It's barnardos-ets.org.uk, and on there we've got information on what we offer as an apprenticeship provider. So I wouldn't be allowed back into Bernardo's unless I gave a wee plug for that. So, but yeah, definitely go up levy share, absolutely.
Okay, that's great. So there's lots of places you can go, and what we're going to do actually at Prospectus is we'll provide all of these links and information so that you can access them later. I mean, I think that there is so many avenues to explore here. There's also the Institutes of Apprenticeships as well, where you can look up the standards, so we'll make that available. I just find it's interesting if you are not paying into the levy. I mean, one thought I had is that you could be in a building and you could be sharing a building with another organisation and perhaps a corporate organisation. Go and talk to them. They might be paying into the levy. Perhaps you could lean into their levy to support your organisation. There's lots of different routes, but we all really think that this is a great way for you to both retain and attract talent into your organisation, and we really want to champion that. So thank you everyone for your contribution to this discussion. Hopefully everybody will find it valuable, and as I say, we will share all the links and signposting to support more apprenticeships in the not-for-profit sector. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.